Good afternoon. Last night I, of course, visited my father, and he's not feeling very well, so he couldn't. He just doesn't have the energy to come down and give the talk today. So he said, "Why don't you give the talk?" And so here we are right now. So the Sesshin 7 days is a long time, and then it's not a long time. It seems like lifetimes that we've been practicing together, or actually even one sitting could be lifetimes. But doing the practice every day over and over again creates kind of a feeling of one body, or many bodies, or one body. The night watch, sounding the pieces of wood, doing the night watch, and then people going back to their beds. It's all like a little universe, the planets. And people are pretty accurate because they want to go to sleep or they want to get the job done, wash the dishes, eat. So everything it's very, very it's like clockwork. So Dharma and Zen practice is like clockwork, and it's just like what I was mentioning the other talk. It's the relative, but then the absolute when it's on. It's clockwork, but it's not a conditioned self clockwork. Like gotta get to work on time. Yeah, it's the working, and so it's the feeling, how we feel when we walk, when we rake, when we empty the trash. This is all dharmas and Buddha's work. It's like clockwork, but the relative and absolute integrate and they become one. And then when you're on time, and it's not just clock time or conditioned time, then we're on time of the whole universe, the moon, stars, and the sun. So it's a big practice, but it takes a lot of effort, a lot of patience, a lot of determination, and also it takes a lot to face your own suffering and your own pain. That's basically what it is. When I was at Eiheiji, at the end of my time at Eiheiji, Eiheiji the Soto Zen, like the training monastery in Japan. It's like the Vatican of Zen, and after the halfway point, Suzuki Roshi used to tell me, "Be careful, be careful, because we have this idea. Oh, I'm almost out of here. I'm almost done." And so we actually, everybody at Eiheiji, bowing, prostrating, eating. Everyone wants to get out. It's just like hell. But it's this imprint that is in your flesh and bones that makes something that's so deep that it sticks with you. So that's what this practice is about. It's about it sticking with you. And there cannot be anything more truthful than actually feeling your legs on fire and your mind all confused. There's no other reality than that. And then that's where you are. But we usually think there's another reality, and we create fabrications and reality upon reality, and that's our human condition. I think in Japanese it's kyuskete, Nyoze kyuskete, they're all Nyoze. Because I was the older one there. I was 42, and they're all like, they're all 18 and 20 years old. So be careful, because the sesshin actually never ends, and you can never actually get away from this self that is actually on this cushion. But we think we could, the last bell, we're waiting for the last bell, sentient beings, and then we're all serious, the last one. But it keeps on going, it keeps on going. And actually the other, oh wait, yeah, it keeps on going. And what they do say is like when you're training, at the beginning it's like climbing up a mountain, so you're looking, you're getting your footholds, and when you reach the top, then you're all like, the pressure's off, and then you look down into the valley, and you're kind of out of there. And so this is the hardest time, is to actually create and actually focus even more on your practice now. And even when it comes to the end, even more, and then after the end, even more, and it keeps on going. But that's what will build, it's a training and conditioning. Yeah, it's a conditioning. So step by step, we go down the mountain. Feel your steps. Feel the kaishaku when you hit the clackers. Hear the wood. When you bow. We're offering ourselves to this world that is greater than us. That's greater than our conditioned self. There's this. In the Fukanza Zengi, so Dogen wrote this, the Fukanza Zengi, when he returned from China to Japan in 1227, and this was actually his first work, and it's instructions basically how to sit, what happens with the body, and then actually what happens internally. So this is just a sentence from it I wanted to share. See, I think. If I can find. Yeah, and yet if there is the slightest discrepancy, the way is as distant as heaven from earth. If the least like or dislike arises, the mind is lost in confusion. Suppose you gain pride of understanding, inflate your own achievement, glimpse the wisdom that runs through all things, attain the way, and clarify your mind, raising an aspiration to escalate the very sky. In the Shin Shin Ming, this is the part that Dogen, to realize its manifestation is to be neither for nor against. The conflict of likes and dislikes is in itself the disease of the mind. Do not dwell in dualities and scrupulously avoid pursuing the way. If there is the least or dislike, like or dislike, the mind is lost in confusion. And it's kind of interesting. Yesterday was so windy that a lot of these panels were almost going to fly out. And I remember when I had this experience in Santa Fe, New Mexico, we would take people out for a alone time fast for 5 days, and everybody would go out into the wilderness, and then 3 days, just with a piece of canvas and then a jug of water. And so I picked this mountaintop, and the storms, they would come. When the storm came, I thought it was going to be easy. I said, I camp a lot and I know how this goes and all that. So I, sit down my stuff, and then what do you do after that? There's no food. You don't set up camp or anything. You have to just be there. And all of a sudden my heart started racing. And then I could see the storm coming, in a distance. And then as it came, I got scared. And what the Native Americans say is they say, touch the ground. So I sat down and then touched the ground, and then the clouds, they came over, and then they left. And it's the same as this wind we experienced yesterday. It was a pretty big wind, but you could get caught up. You could get caught up in actually the confusion of the mind or the wind or what's going to happen, and not feel yourself there. So this sitting that we do when Dogen, when Shakyamuni Buddha was on Ryuju mountain, Mount Ryuju, he was giving his speech to like millions of people, and then he picked up a flower, and showed it to Mahakashapa, and Mahakashapa, and the Buddha blinked, and Mahakashapa took the flower and he smiled. And at that time, then the Buddha announced to everyone that this is the transmission. This is the transmission of the Shobogenzo. He actually says Shobogenzo Nihon Myoshin, which is the marvelous, the incomparable life of nirvana that's transmitted, and he called it actually the Shobogenzo. And the Shobogenzo is actually the treasury of the true Dharma eye, and of course it's been transmitted from, like this morning we were saying the lineage, we chanted all those names, when I was little, when we chant those names, it was very, very, I didn't even understand what it meant, but it was, I would always it would always hit me very deeply, the reciting those names. I didn't know what it meant, but now I kind of do, but not. Yeah. So this lineage, from Bodhidharma, from Dogen, down to Shinryu Suzuki Roshi, down to Kwong Roshi, and now to us, actually, as we sit, we are actually, this is a mind-to-mind transmission when we sit. So it is all the stuff that we are thinking, all the stuff that we're not thinking, all the stuff that we're realizing. This is actually the mind-to-mind transmission. And this mind-to-mind transmission, when Bodhidharma was in China, he was, he went up into the cave above Shaolin, and he faced the wall for 9 years, and no one even knew what he was doing. They thought he was crazy, and if and I think that most or all the people in here, that we have chosen a different way, that's different from you would say conventional way. So you have to keep that. You have to keep that way, but then how do you maintain it? To maintain, sustain, cultivate, this is very, very important. So it's not, of course, people think this is just a retreat, but it's actually to face this, clarifying the self, facing your own self, and understanding you in a very deep way. So of course, retreat, and then it fits in with your schedule, but it's a lot deeper than just a retreat. It's a training. It's actually your life. 7 days of your 7 days of your life. But we think, oh, it's a retreat that we could slot in, slot in. So we learn something, we go back, we're more confident, more calm. But boy, it's a lot deeper than that. So Bodhidharma faced the wall, and the people finally, I think they poisoned him. I mean, they threw rocks at him, poisoned him, and so he's kind of, threw rocks at him. And then 200 years after, then they said, wow, we understand what he was doing. It was transmitted. Something was transmitted that is inconceivable, and it's beyond what we can even think of. And this is all from just sitting down, just like the Buddha did. The Buddha sat down under the Bodhi tree and something happened. It wasn't like he was looking for anything, but it was something happened. But there was a resolve, a deep resolve to understand the self, and then also to have liberation from this greed, anger, and ignorance. So this is the silent illumination, that what we're doing is the Zazen. Of course, Zazen comes from, schools back in China. When they saw him sitting, they said, oh yeah, they're the Zazen school, so we call him the Zazen guy. The Zazen guy on top of the mountain, So it's the Jiju Zammai is another name. It's a silent illumination, like what I was talking about the other day, silent illumination. So all of it, boy, is silent illumination. Just this, it's brutal. It could be brutal. Highs and lows. But when it's low, it's just low, that's all it is. And when it's high, it's just high. It's only that, don't compare, then it gets like this. But when we're high, we even it out. When it's low, we even it out. So it's the practice is that incomparable life in nirvana. So the Shobogenzo, this is the work that Eihei Dogen did, is the Shobogenzo, and he actually dedicated it to then that announcement that Shakyamuni Buddha did on Mount Ryuju. And sho means right or correct, and then there's ho, which is dharma. So it's not right from wrong, but it's dharma is like a law that cannot be disputed, just like the gravity of the earth, or up and down, cannot be disputed at all. Dharma, or the right Dharma. It's something that that we already have, and it's something that is already there, and it's before it can be named. It's before it can be even thought of. So I think in the Kaien Zanmai, Dogen writes about it's the instant before the present moment. Then something happens. Gen is I. Shobo Gen is I, and the Dharma cannot be thought of with the thinking mind, with the conceptual mind, but the I, it's the faculties. So it is actually the not seeing. So it's symbolized the faculties, that it's a direct experience of seeing. So it's not you seeing, but it's the seeing that is seeing. Then that's correct and right experience. And then that's also true transmission. You're receiving, and then also you're transmitting. So this is the seeing of just seeing, the hearing of just hearing. So it's a direct experience, sitting on this cushion, or walking, or the planets are practice, walking by each other, getting peanut butter and jelly at a certain time, washing dishes together, going to the restroom. All that is actually it's harmonizing, and it's being in accordance. And so we're actually all in a little experiment. Yeah, it's all an experiment, but it's a good place to practice, and good people to practice with. And also maybe bad people to practice with, but we all aim at in the same direction. And Shobo Genzo, so the storehouse, again, it's the container, and to sustain the practice. So it's a storehouse and like a treasure. And so the forms are all like a treasure. It's to sustain the practice. It's to sustain this you would say purity of heart. So it looks very rigid from the outside. It could look very meticulous, but within these forms then is liberation and freedom within this. Yes, Shobo Genzo. So the Shobo Genzo, as I said, is actually these are like footnotes of Zazen. What he wrote about, it's all the footnotes of Zazen, and what the Buddha, what we're doing. And the other day I read from Hotsu Mujoshin, and I'll go back. And Hotsu Mujoshin was, it was written in 1244 at a small temple called Kipoji, and Kipoji sits maybe like an hour and a half away from in the mountains from Eheiji, and you can actually hike from Eheiji to Kipoji. And Kipoji is a very small temple, and just actually 15 years ago they put a road up there, and the whole time since like 800 years that they've been actually bringing food up and everything up to the mountain. So they put this road that you can now drive up, So I hiked up and then took a taxi down. But Kipoji is a temple in which it's like a sub temple of Eiheiji. If anyone gets hurt or just can't take it mentally, they put them at Kipoji, like Sonoma Mountain, to learn all the positions, and then they bring them back to Eiheiji, and then the person will leave the gate and then say they trained at Eiheiji. So Kipoji is where then the Hotsu Mujoshin was written, at Kipoji, in this little temple. And at the time it was written, then Dogen was building Eiheiji, and Daibutsuji was Eiheiji's first name, but this was a talk that was given to lay people that were actually building the temple. So I think it was builders, and this was to lay people. Hotsu means to establish, and Mujo means supreme, and Shin means mind or will. So Hotsu Mujoshin means the establishment of the will to the supreme truth. The will to pursue the Buddhist truth, which can never be pursued for any purpose other than the truth itself. And again, the other day we were talking about highly esteemed, this attitude in studying the way. The attitude is this attitude. That's what Chogyam Trungpa attitude, man. Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, he would say head and shoulders, Head and shoulders, I think it was a shampoo in the 70s too. But head and shoulders mean you sit upright, not down like this, but you're upright. Head and shoulders is bringing dignity into everything that you do. Even if you're sleepy, bring dignity to really be really sleepy. So when we eat oryoki, we're actually sitting zazen, it's upright, and we bring the food, we honor the food in the Buddha's bowls. The founding ancestor in the Western kingdom, Gautama Buddha, says snow mountains are like great nirvana. Remember, he likens what should be likened. The same qualities, snow mountains and nirvana, should be the same because they are experienced directly and straightforward. To grasp what are called snow mountains is the same as snow mountains. To grasp nirvana is the same as the great nirvana. I was thinking about in the footnotes it says the snow mountains are the Himalayas or the Himalayas, and then I can see the mountain. I can fit it inside my whole mind. I could see them, but the mountain is big. That's an interesting one. And the snow mountains, when we look at a snow mountain and we look at the peak, there's something going up. And it's very, very interesting. Even in a temple, the highest peak is where the abbot is. The highest peak, or it's the Buddha hall where the Dharma. So it's always looking up. So that's kind of interesting. But the mountain, boy, mountains are in everything. Mountains are in these glasses. mountains can be in pebbles, mountains can be in your stomach, mountains can be lighting the candle, and to look at the mountains then in all things. But we see it from far away, these mountains. But as we look, and then as we become part of the mountain, actually the mountain is always connected with us, right? Because we're just seeing it from far away, but it's all interconnected. But we usually think this is something separate from us, or that camera is separate from the mountain in the Himalayas, but it's all connected. Yeah, so to experience directly, so to see it, to experience it, to hear it, to taste it, is all direct experience. And that's the mountain, or it's nirvana. That's a big one. It's not over there. To experience the wind of yesterday. Boy, it was big, right? The wind was big, sitting there and all like, But you are the wind. We are the wind. So I think we we have this kind of this yearning, or yearning. There's a book called Yearning for the Ancient Ways, and it's a practice book to be at a monastery. But the ancient ways is not just the forms, but the ancient ways go before the Buddha. So it's the moon, stars, and the sun. That's why people go camping. It's the ancient ways. We're returning actually to the ancient ways within the mountain, within ourselves. So it's this aspiration, establishment of the will to the supreme. It's an aspiration of looking far, but then you go that way. So it's not my way or your way. Just like the other day I was talking about, we say set the salt and pepper shakers over there. People are, oh God, that's kind of weird. At home I do it this way. But the way is to get you out of your own way, so you can be in the way. That's what the forms and the zazen, tying the knot, holding up our bowl. It's a certain way. So it's a way that it short circuits the conditioned mind, then to come back to this mountain within oneself, and then something has arrived. We have arrived. And then we can see the mountain, but not seeing it outside of yourself, but just seeing the mountain as it is. And then it becomes a mountain, the direct experience of the mountain. I think in the Genjo Koan, so the Genjo Koan is actually the first writing of Eihei Dogen for the Shobogenzo, and the Genjo Koan was written in 1233 at Kosho Horinji, after Dogen left Kaninji when he returned from China. Then he went to Anyo Inn. Then he went to Kosho Horinji, and at that time, people were trying to kill him too. because he was finding out a new way that, I don't know, you say against, some people have been using the word against the stream, and I think there is, right, there's a term against the stream, but I say with the stream. When you do go with the stream, everyone is actually against it. But anyways, he was being run out of the places that he lived. So Kosho Harinji, then he went to Kipoji from there, and from 1233 to 1244, that was his most prolific year. And the Genjo Koan, Genjoji, which we are named after, manifesting the fundamental point that the Shuso was saying, or manifestation of the present moment, is the Genjo Koan. And the Genjo Koan is actually the philosophy and the directions of how bodhisattvas and all practitioners should follow. So he wrote the Fukanza Zangi in 1227, then he wrote the Tenzo Kyokun. Those are all instructions for lay people like you and me, how to cut stuff, so all those are regular, these are regular activities. So this is part of the philosophical background of the Bodhisattva path to practice. So he gave it to a lay person, and I think was a lay person a lieutenant or something, or general or something? Or just a lay?
He was his patron.
Yeah, a patron.
He was a noble. Yoshigi, something like that.
So when you first seek Dharma, you imagine you are far away from it, far away from its environs. This is the same thing that I was talking about. At the moment when Dharma is correctly transmitted, you are immediately your original self. Yeah, this is the direction of practice enlightenment is demonstrated with the principle of no Dharma outside of the mind. This is not limited to the beginner's mind. It is the moment of going toward Buddha Dharma with the awareness that there is practice enlightenment that has to happen. So there has to be activity and movement. It cannot be, just in the conditioned mind, but there has to be, I don't want to say forward, but it's a movement towards something that's deep, that is that cannot be named, right? The Shobogenzo, something that is correct and right. So that's what we're aiming. We're all aiming this direction. That's very deep and a lot different than conditioned world. We're still in conditioned world, but then we modify it. We practice in a way then that short circuits that condition. But it is very strange. We usually say the first thought of enlightenment arises simultaneously with complete perfect enlightenment. But this is not what is meant here. What it means is when you first go toward the Buddha Dharma, you are already standing back to back with the Dharma. It's strange, isn't it? Why do we face away from Dharma? Why are we so far away from its environs? Here, no Dharma comes from outside the mind. When the self is in the midst of the original path, without confusion and without topsy-turvy views, without increase or decrease, and without mistakes. There is not one thing that is lacking. To seek for enlightenment outside of this is already being far away from its environs of Dharma. As soon as you arouse the idea of seeking for something, you have gone astray thousands of myriads of miles from the way. You try to attain something by practicing something new. This is like seeing Dharma outside the mind. Yeah. Only when you forget yourself and forget Buddha Dharma is Dharma transmitted to you. Dogen Zenji said to Ru Jing, "Master, please do not give your seal of approval so easily." It was indeed body and mind dropped off. The time of body and mind dropped off is the place of no seeking. It is as plain as a blank wall that we face during Zazen. So this is back to the Hutsunya Joshin. The body mind of the Buddha's truth is grass, trees, tiles and pebbles, and wind, rain, water, and fire. Utilize these so that the Buddha's truth is realized is just the establishment of the mind. I think he was talking to these builders. There's all the tools, the nails, the rakes, the shovels. Grasping space, we should build stupas and build Buddhas. Scooping water from mountain streams, we should build Buddhas and build stupas. And this is what we're doing in our practice. This is establishment of the truth of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. So it's complete attainment. Grabbing the shovel is complete attainment. Cutting the tofu is complete attainment. It's gone beyond. Now this is the mountain. That's the mountain. And it is hundreds, thousands, myriads of establishments of the one establishment of the Bodhi mind. So we do this actually over and over again. And I think a lot of people, they get, I'm sorry to say, but the Zazen, most of the time we're waiting for something, right? But it's endless. And we return to our life over and over and over again. And there's nothing else other than that. And then most new people, I'm afraid to say, they get discouraged and say, this is not for me. I want the big ticket. They're waiting for the Satori experience or enlightenment to come. And that is the bad news. It's an endless practice, so it's a continuous practice. But that's the big enlightenment, and it is the big ticket. It's the Buddha's awakening under our very feet that we stand. So it's when you're in your business office at New York Insurance, it's where you are. It's where you stand. So this sitting in zazen, boy, it's just so deep. The teachings and the readings are just so deep. The practice is just, it's vast. So here. Sitting in zazen and pursuing the truth is establishment of the Bodhi mind. Establishment of the mind is beyond oneness and difference. And sitting in zazen is beyond oneness and difference. They are beyond repetition and beyond division. All things should be investigated like this. If the whole process of gathering grass, trees, and the 7 treasures and building stupas and building Buddhas were intentional doing, and therefore useless for realizing the truth, then the 37 auxiliary Bodhi methods would also be intentional doing. And each instant of mustering the body, mind of a human being or God of the triple world in order to do training would be intentional doing, and realizing of the ultimate state would be impossible. Grass, trees, tiles, and pebbles, and the 4 elements and 5 aggregates are all equally the mind alone, and are all equally real form. And we experience this then as we sit in zazen. So we experience when all the parts of the body, when we're sitting and we have all these parts, our arm and the mudra and our head, our eyes, and we adjust all these parts. And at the beginning, we think that they are all parts, but as we feel these parts and also experience them come together, then that's this whole faith-like body. When it's this shikantaza, when we hit sit and there's nothing else. So it's like striking the nail with the hammer, and it's already the temple is already built. There's another fascicle that Dogen wrote, and it's called the Gyoji Dokkan. And Gyoji Dokkan is actually, I started writing notes right before the talk on back of it, and I got excited about it, so I'm gonna share it with you. But I had maybe 45 minutes to prepare. So Gyoji Dokkan, Gyo means practice, and Ji means preservation and to maintain. And Dokkan, or Do, is the Buddha way, and Kan is like a ring, and I think you guys have Raksus have that ring, and that's the Kan It's the way ring, and the ring, the way ring has no beginning, has no end, and also no middle. So all of it is actually they say it's like a jewel circle. And this is actually Zazen when he talks about this. So within this way, and then that's what he was talking in the Hotsu Mujoshin, is these are the four steps of practice. It's the first is looking it's looking towards or looking up. You know, when we're offering, when we're giving ourselves, this is offering, and it's an aspiration to aspire. And I think does aspire means to let go of, is it let go of a breath too, right? Aspire? Does aspire mean that?
No.
No, it doesn't?
Respire.
Oh, respire. Oh, aspire. Okay. So aspire is a yearning, and it's a desire, and it's a movement, it's an activity. A strong desire to move. When you have aspiration, then there's practice. And then at the same time, the aspiration practice is enlightenment, and then enlightenment is nirvana. And of course the Shuso mentioned Hui Ning, so then I started to read Hui Ning in that 45 minutes. I was reading Hui Ning. And Hui Ning, he was illiterate, and he ground rice in a shed while everyone like us are sitting in here. That's the Tenzo's work. Everyone's sitting in the meditation hall, and Hui Ning is grinding rice. It's this, and he had a staff that was it was big, and we went to visit, and I could hold his staff and then saw his grinding stone. This was in 86 or 87. And Hui Ning, after he was enlightened, he carried around the stone with him as a reminder for his continuous practice in all the things that he does. So it's not just something that we do and we follow like the precepts, not like about being a monk. You know, it's not ascetic practice, but it's the practice of then all the things that we do. So this continuous practice then is actually, boy, it's the continuous practice, and it's the activity of then all things. It's the impermanence of all things as continuous practice when we have aspiration, or we have practice, or we have nirvana, or we see and look at the peak of the mountain. When Shakyamuni Buddha saw the morning star, when this morning star appeared, I attained the way simultaneously with all sentient beings and the great earth. Thus, aspiration, practice, enlightenment, and nirvana must be the simultaneity of aspiration, practice, enlightenment, and nirvana. So it's only all those things that are simultaneously. So I wrote then the practice, the more you do this practice, this aspiration, practice, enlightenment all together, the nirvana, liberation, it becomes solidified and it becomes strong. You know, at the beginning, it's just these steps or something to do, but it becomes strong. But you have to go deep into it. You have to go deep, and it takes a lot of work. Some people will do it, some people not. Some people may run away from it. But it's the only thing and the best thing that you could do. That's why we're here. It's actually to clean up our own life, to clean up all the suffering that we've created, other people, we've created ourselves. Also, we created the suffering of all these things that we touched, and that's karma. That's all karma. So you need to go deep. We need to go deep. And that's where when that's that term, when faith enters, then wisdom delivers, and wisdom then is the wisdom of all Dharma things. And we see things as Dharma things then. The book is a Dharma thing. Is aspiration, practice, enlightenment. Nirvana is the book. Your shoes, your glasses. That's what we're doing here. And so you actually cannot stop. But the more deeper you go, the more the infinitely subtle, they say infinitely subtle and profound it is, but your resolve then becomes very strong, you know. And it's so infinite and so subtle that you know then that you're deluded because you can't see all things, all the things of the Dharma. You can't see all sides of the mountain. So therefore then you understand your own delusive and your own suffering, but you want to clean up your life. Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, I'm just very passionate, not passionate, but I know it's true. Yeah. So it's important. The practice is very important. So I think we'll end there.